the night everything unraveled. I remember the exact tone of my father's voice, the fury in his face as he pointed toward the door, screaming, "Get out! Get out of this house, and don't ever come back. You disgrace this family." I was only 17. My offense? I got my high school girlfriend, Lily, pregnant. We'd been together for nearly 2 years, the kind of young head-over-heels love that involved scribbled notes in lockers and stolen kisses beneath stairwells. One night, in the cramped back seat of my dad's beat-up Ford, we crossed that irreversible threshold. We were terrified, sure, but we didn't run. We stood by our decision, braced for the storm. Lily's parents cut her off completely, said she had ruined her life. My mother wouldn't even meet my eyes as I threw clothes into a duffel bag. She just stood there, silent and trembling, while my father spat words sharp enough to wound. That night, Lily and I found shelter in a dingy motel room with just $50 to our name, and a child growing inside the only person who still saw me as worthy. 2 weeks later, we got married. Just the two of us, a justice of the peace and a whispered promise. No matter how hard it got, we'd raise our son together. And we did. We named him Aiden. He became my world. I juggled 2 jobs, stocking shelves overnight and flipping omelets in the early mornings. Lily took babysitting gigs, studied at night, and hand-sewed clothing out of thrift store rags to sell on Etsy. We scraped, sacrificed, and survived. Our home wasn't polished or pristine, but it radiated love and resilience. We had no help, not a single call, not even a holiday card from my parents. For 8 long years, they acted as if we had died, and I convinced myself I didn't need them. Until last Saturday. Lily was out shopping. Aiden sat on the couch playing video games. I was in the kitchen making lunch when I heard a knock. I opened the door, and time folded in on itself. There they stood, my parents, ghosts in the flesh. My father looked older, grayer. My mother thinner, pale, but their eyes still held that same glassy distance. "Can we come in?" my mother asked, almost too gently. I said nothing. I simply stepped aside. They entered the house slowly, eyes skimming over the cozy, worn furniture, the baby photos dotting the walls, the stick-figure drawings proudly displayed on the fridge. Then Aiden came in, curious and wide-eyed. He paused. They stared, and in that instant, their expressions cracked. My mother clutched my father's arm. My father's jaw slackened. "What?" he breathed. "What is this?" And I knew they weren't here to apologize. They hadn't come to make amends. They had seen something in my son's face that rocked their world. Aiden blinked at the strangers in our living room. "Hi, who are you?" he asked politely. My mother stepped forward, voice quivering. I cut her off. They're old relatives, just visiting. Aiden nodded and returned to his room. The door clicked shut. Their masks dropped. "That boy," my father said hoarsely. "He looks like me?" "Not just you," I said coldly, arms folded. "He looks exactly like your father." My mother slowly sat down, hands trembling. "There's something we never told you," she said. "We didn't think it would ever matter. But then we saw his picture. We had to come." "What are you talking about?" My father exhaled deeply. "Your grandfather, my father, wasn't who we said he was. We told everyone he died broke. But the truth is he was wealthy, extremely wealthy. He left everything behind and started over decades ago. We were estranged. And now," I asked. "He died last month," my mother whispered. "No spouse, no other heirs. But he left a will and a DNA clause." The room went silent. My pulse thudded in my ears. "You're saying Aiden?" My father nodded solemnly. "He's the only direct descendant, the sole heir. His estate, his assets, his trust accounts, they all belong to your son." I could hardly breathe. "So why now?" I asked, though I already knew. My mother's voice cracked. "The trustees reached out. They need Aiden's legal guardian to help manage the estate. If we're cut out, we lose everything." There it was. The truth, raw and shameless. They didn't return out of love or remorse. Not for me. Not for Aiden. They came for money. for an inheritance they never dreamed of until Aiden's face unlocked old bloodlines. I clenched my jaw. You cast me out. Now you want a slice of the legacy that belongs to my son. My father looked away. My mother murmured, "Please, just think about it." I smiled, cold as steel. "Oh, I am. I've already started making plans." She looked hopeful. "You'll help us?" I leaned in. "No, I'll make sure you never see a single cent." After they left, the air in my living room still stank of desperation and old cologne. I sat at the table, coffee gone cold, staring at the wall. Aiden laughed in the next room, untouched by the generational hurricane swirling around him. I knew exactly what had to happen. I wasn't that terrified teenager anymore. I was a builder now, and I would turn that skill into armor. The next morning, I walked into my attorney's office. Elena Foster, sharp as a whip, loyal only to the letter of the law. I handed her the documents my parents had brought. Copies of the will, DNA matches, estate filings. She scanned them, raised an eyebrow. They really think they can muscle their way into guardianship over a minor heir? They're drunk on entitlement. I replied, I want a fortress, legal and ironclad. Elena delivered, a revocable trust in my name until Aiden turned 21. No decisions could be made without my consent. Pre-filed restraining orders in case of harassment. A public filing naming my parents as disinherited relatives under the hostile intent clause. And most importantly, a non-disclosure agreement. If they wanted to be part of Aiden's life, they'd have to sign it, violate it, and they'd be excommunicated from his life and his state forever. Then came the bait. I invited them to a neutral meeting space, glass walls, surveillance cameras, legal observers. They showed up dressed like they were attending a country club mixer. My mother in fake pearls. My father in a blazer that didn't quite fit anymore. I slid a folder across the table. These are your terms. Sign them, and you can come to Aiden's birthday next week. Break a single clause, and you're gone for good. They skimmed the contract. My father paled. My mother offered a strained smile. Why all this? She asked. We just want to be part of his life. Elena leaned in, her voice frosty. You discarded him and his father like garbage. Now you want to show up for the payday? They hesitated, but eventually they signed, hook, line, and legally shackled. The next day, I hosted a celebration. Not for Aiden's birthday. That came later. This was for something bigger. I had purchased the house I was once thrown out of. The same walls that had echoed with my father's rage now glowed with fresh paint and laughter. I restored every room. Then I invited neighbors, mentors, friends who had stepped in when my own family didn't. When my parent arrived, NDA-bound and smiling too wide, I handed Aiden the mic. He stood up, proud. This house, he said, is where my dad got kicked out, but now we live here. We won. The applause shook the air. My parents stood frozen, buried beneath their forced smiles, silenced by shame. That night when the party ended, I stood alone in the old living room, the same place where I had once been broken. Now, the silence felt warm. It belonged to me. Aiden was upstairs, curled up with his new golden retriever, a dog he named Lucky. The irony wasn't lost on me. The next morning, I asked my parents to stay for one final talk. They sat at the same table where they had once severed me from their lives. My mother spoke first. We didn't know what to do back then, she said. We thought we were doing what was right. I didn't flinch. You mean saving face? Sacrificing your son for respectability. My father wrung his hands. We've changed. No, I said cold and clear. You got caught in your irrelevance. That's not change. That's desperation. They fell silent. Then I spoke the words I'd waited years to say. You are not part of our future. This house is not your sanctuary. Aiden deserves more than the kind of love that can be revoked out of shame. Weeks passed. Every detail was finalized. They violated the NDA by gossiping to extended family. I caught it through forwarded messages and screenshots. Their visitation rights were revoked. Half the inheritance was donated to shelters for single fathers and youth outreach programs. The same ones that kept me alive when I slept in my car and lived off vending machine snacks. The other half went into a trust for Aiden. Alongside it, I left him a letter for his 18th birthday, not to stir resentment, but to show him the legacy he came from, the legacy we built. I replaced every family photo. No more fake smiles from my childhood. Now it was just Aiden and me, building Lego castles, flipping pancakes, dancing barefoot in the rain. Because legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you fight for. Years later, Aiden towered over me. One evening he asked, "Do you ever think about them?" I nodded. Sometimes. What would you say to them now? I smiled gently. Nothing. I already said everything that mattered. Because in the end, the greatest revenge wasn't legal victories, or money, or property. It was peace. It was dignity. It was a life rebuilt, strong enough for my son to stand on with pride.